And now...
What is this?
I know you're gonna dig this.
This is the Flatland Sports Podcast.
Where do you come from? Lubbock, Texas?
Lubbock, Texas.
A place called Lubbock.
I wonder if they think I'm so gorgeous back in Lubbock.
What do you care about Lubbock? You're big time now.
I'm just a little homesick, that's all.
Is that what you want, Larry, to spend the night in Lubbock, Texas at a day's inn with a $15 voucher from Cinnabon?
Lubbock? No, it's near Lubbock.
What's it like there?
It's flat, real flat. You stand on a coffee can, you can see Colorado.
Happy Wednesday from across the Great Plains of West Texas. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, free and available worldwide on YouTube and Spotify. For Flatland Sports, I am Christopher Johnston. Lots to cover today as the tortilla tradition is officially dead. R.I.P. tortillas. Kirby Hocutt announcing that the throwing of tortillas is no longer permitted nor encouraged at kickoff or any other part of the game. This comes after Big Game Brett Yormark announced a 15-yard penalty and a $100,000 fine for any object, including a edible frisbee landing on the field, and not necessarily just the field, not the playing surface, but the actual playing enclosure. So anywhere inside the walls. 15-yard penalty, automatic $100,000 fine. This is as soft as the tortillas that were being thrown, and I can't help but wonder why. Why is the Big 12 singling out Texas Tech for what is a very nationally popular tradition? I mean, it's something that brings positive attention to the Big 12. With its cancellation, everybody from Josh Pate to the Sickos Committee to everyone else has been talking and lamenting its death. They even added it to the EA Sports College Football 26 game. The tortillas were added to the game. It's just such a well-known tradition that is linked with Texas Tech that, frankly, there's no negative to it. They're tortillas. They're soft. They're edible frisbees. I've heard the complaints that, well, if you're throwing thousands of tortillas, how can you see a knife? Well, because you use your eyes. It's not hard to see other objects being thrown in addition to tortillas. And I'll tell you why Texas Tech's being singled out. Brett Yormark, basketball-minded guy, he's pandering to Kansas. That's all this is. Kansas complained. Kansas has continued to complain, from what I understand, and since that game. The Jayhawks are the biggest basketball brand in the Big 12 currently and have had their foot out the door for the Big 10 for the last 30 years. I also wonder, and bear with me while I put my tinfoil hat on here real quick, is Texas Tech being targeted because of Cody Campbell? Cody Campbell just recently put out an ad for his Save College Sports campaign, very specifically singling out conference commissioners as being greedy and working only to line their own pockets. Now, that was the ad that Fox and ABC refused to run, and he changed it from conference commissioners to, what was it, the powers that be or involve power, whatever. Either way, everybody in the world knows that the intent was to single out conference commissioners, such as Brett Yormark. Brett Yormark also pushed for private equity to be infused into the Big 12. Cody Campbell has been very vocal against private equity. And Texas Tech was a driving force behind the Big 12 declining private equity when it was pitched by Yormark. So, also, Yormark just recently publicly endorsed the SCORE Act, which Cody Campbell is very heavily against and has spoken out against repeatedly, as it is an adversarial stance to his Save College Sports Act that he's been pushing. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. There might be. You never know. The internet is crazy. The world is crazy. But it's clear that Brett Yormark and the Big 12 are not looking out for Texas Tech's best interests right now for a multitude of reasons and have a multiple of conflicts of interest. Now, of course, there was a football game played last Saturday. I guess we'll talk about it. Red Raiders suffered their first loss of the season at the hands of the Arizona State Sun Devils. It was a final score of 26-22. Defense played great as usual, especially given the situations they were put in throughout the game. Baron Morton was out with an injury. Will Hammond got the start. we saw why he is the quarterback of the future and not necessarily the quarterback of today. Lots of questions about play calling. Took about 7 weeks for the fan base to turn on the OC. That's a new record. That's going to be one of those unbreakable records like in baseball for future Texas Tech fans. Waiting a whole 7 weeks before we turned on the offensive coordinator. Really, there were only 2 decisions that left me scratching my head as far as play calls go. Going for it on 4th and 6 early in the game instead of kicking the field goal. That was a completely, in my opinion, unnecessary risk. I know Joey McGuire is always aggressive, and you should always expect him to be aggressive, and being aggressive has worked out well for him in the past for the most part. Hindsight is 20/20. If it works here, you're Joey McGuire's praised for being aggressive and getting the touchdown early. My issue with it, as my guy DC Nick on X pointed out, and I'll put his handle up, my issue with it is that if you kick that field goal, fast forward to the end of the game, you can win by kicking after you make the comeback, you can win by kicking the field goal, getting it within field goal range, running down the clock, and then just kicking the game-winning field goal at the end instead of having to score a touchdown and leaving 2 minutes on the clock for Arizona State. The other call that I, of course, question is the quarterback option to the short side of the field on 4th down near the end of the game that ultimately resulted in a turnover, cost Texas Tech a touchdown, and possibly even the game. Now I'm hearing that was not a called play. That was a Will Hammond checked into it. Possibly saw the blitz, and frankly, I just think he overthought it. Not the check that I would have gone into, but run that exact same play to the right side, and it's a touchdown, easy. There was 3 total defenders on the right side of the field, which was the wide side of the field. If you run that same play right, which I believe was part of the check, my understanding was it was Will Hammond who called the check and called it to the left side. It's a touchdown. And again, hindsight's 20/20. If you pick up a block going to the left side, you're good. But Arizona State blitzed on the short side of the field, and Will Hammond didn't have time to let the option develop. But as it stands, Texas Tech falls to 6-1 on the season, dropped to number 14 in the AP poll, exactly where I thought they would land, which is surprising because I fully expected to get screwed over by the Associated Press. And as we sit today, despite what some people believe on the internet, still very much alive in the Big 12 and the college football playoff race. Going to go now to take on OSU this weekend. Baron Morton, he's listed as day-to-day officially, but he should be back. I fully expect him to be back unless there's something they're not telling us. This is the ultimate get-right game for Texas Tech. Reminds me a lot of the 2019 basketball team after they just got absolutely demolished by Kansas State and played horribly in the middle of the season. Got a soft Arkansas team at home to correct course with, and of course the rest is history. They went on a generational run to finish the season and ended up at the national championship game. Biggest questions after the game, of course, are in regards to the health of Baron Morton. As I said, he's day-to-day. I fully expect Morton to start. Terrence Carter, I'm unsure of. It didn't look good. He was carted off during the game, returned in a boot with crutches. As I record this, I have not seen anything regarding his condition. I have looked. So hopefully we'll hear something more soon. Hopefully it's not bad. But we'll talk more about the game and award position group grades. Also preview the Dust Bowl game against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly from the Big 12 weekend. And we'll take a look at next week's slate of conference games. But first, Red Raiders in action. Texas Tech Soccer returned from the Sunshine State victorious with a 3-2 win over the Arizona State Sun Devils and a 2-0 win over Arizona. Taylor Zajewski had the game-winning goal in the 85th minute against Arizona State. Zajewski and Riley Grayson each had a goal in the shutout against Arizona. Texas Tech currently ranked number 12. We'll be back in action Thursday at Colorado. That is an 8 p.m. match start on ESPN+. And of course, football, as we've mentioned, has suffered its first loss. Arizona State, 26-22. Red Raiders made a great comeback late in the game to take the lead, but it wasn't enough as Sam Levitt made a great play to Jordan Tyson to put the Sun Devils in position to win. Hard to see on TV too, but the Hail Mary at the very end from the pass from Will Hammond was as close to being a touchdown on a Hail Mary pass as I have ever seen. Reggie Virgil had two hands on the ball before it was knocked away, and then before Reggie Virgil was almost decapitated by the goalpost that fell over at the end of the game. That's a whole separate issue, though. Let's go ahead now and take a look at each position group grade look at each position group with our weekly position group grades. So quarterbacks. This week I'm giving you a C. Will Hammond struggled really for most of the game, looked confused, made some very questionable throws, made very questionable decisions, notably the check into the option play towards the short side of the field. And I'm going to credit the Arizona State defense. Will Hammond was not allowed to run much, partly because defense, part because Mac Leftwich really wasn't wanting to put Will Hammond in a position to be injured, with Mitch Griffiths being the only available backup. I'm awarding a C instead of an F because Hammond did lead an incredible comeback in the last 3 minutes of the game. Threw one touchdown pass, ran one in. Running backs, I want to award you an F. Just couldn't get anything going on the ground at all. And I'm going to, again, credit Arizona State for the incredible run defense that they had. Maybe we'll change that F to just an incomplete, because Mac Leftwich in his press conference admitted he just didn't call a lot of running plays at all. The team wasn't in a situation to run the ball as much as they would have liked, and Leftwich leaning more towards the passing game and leaning more to calling design quarterback runs the few times that they did try to run the ball. The OL will give you a D. Kept Will Hammond upright for most of the game, but you couldn't run block at all in this game. Arizona State held Texas Tech to just 109 total rushing yards. Will Hammond was your leading rusher with 15 carries, 47 yards. Cam Dickey only got the ball 9 times for 40 yards. Jacoby Williams 3 times for 22 yards. And it just looked like the running backs could not break a tackle to save their lives. And on the other side of the ball, Arizona State tackled incredibly well. Cam Dickey especially, he makes his living off of second chance opportunities when he gets the ball, and Arizona State just didn't allow that. There was maybe one instance where I saw Cam Dickey drag a few defenders to get an extra 5 yards, but once they wrapped him up, nobody would ever let go. Defense. Now, of course, as you know, I score defense on a pass-fail metric based on the metric that did you hold the opposition to less points than your offense. And in this game, unfortunately, that is a fail. We might change that to an incomplete as well. We'll give the defense a freebie because this group performed at an incredibly high level despite the result on Saturday, was consistently put in bad situations, including a short yardage situation at their own 20 that resulted in 8 attempts for the Arizona State Sun Devils to get into the end zone after a incredibly soft roughing the passer penalty was called, was constantly put in bad situations, kept the game within range, and allowed the offense to make a comeback. Biggest issue with the defense, missed multiple opportunities to create turnovers. You had 3 fumbles, 1 fumble that resulted in a first down when the ball bounced across the first down marker and went out of bounds. 1 interception that hit a player in the face. I'm going to say the sun was an issue. It was shining exactly on the opposite side of the ball for that play. If you convert just one of those, especially the missed interception at the end, Texas Tech comes out of there with a win. You just needed one, and unfortunately, you just couldn't make that happen. That's, as they say, that's why you don't gamble on football, because the ball ain't round. And sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce the way that you needed it to. Special teams, also a pass-fail scale. Did you do anything stupid? And no, not at all. In fact, had some great kick returns. Jacoby Williams had 2 of them, returning back for 87 yards. His longest was 56 yards, put Texas Tech in position to make the comeback. I think that play ultimately was the one that resulted in the 4th down that couldn't convert. Micah Hudson returned 1 for 16 yards. Cam Dickey actually returned 1 for 9 yards. Punt returns, Coy Eakin also had a long punt return, 36 yards. Kelby Valson got 1 for 21 yards. Ashton Hampton got 1 for -3 yards. But on the kicking side, Upton Belafont, there were no field goals kicked by Texas Tech, unfortunately. Again, if they had kicked just one near the beginning of the game, it's a whole different game. But 0 for 0 in field goal attempts. Upton Belafont, 1 for 1 in extra points. Stone Harrington, 1 for 1 in extra points. They're kicking by committee now. They got 100% of their kicks, and that's all you can ask of them. Jack Burgess did his best despite being put in just horrible situations. He had 1 punt that landed inside the 20, mostly because he was punting from his own end of the goal line for the entirety of the game. Had a 52-yard punt in there, too. But that's it. Moving on to next Saturday, it is officially Dust Bowl week. Texas Tech faces the Oklahoma State Cowboys at home. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff on ESPNU. Texas Tech trying to right the ship after a loss to Arizona State. Oklahoma State, in regards to the ship, just trying to figure out if there's enough room for Jack on the floating door. It is not good in Stillwater right now. Texas Tech, a 38.5 point favorite, the widest point spread for Texas Tech since the Kent State game. What do we need to know about Oklahoma State? Going into the season, I thought Oklahoma State might turn it around. I thought the most Mike Gundy thing ever would be to go and win 9 to 11 games after going 0-9 in the Big 12 last year, and I was wrong. What turned out to be the most Mike Gundy thing ever was publicly goading his AD into firing him during a press conference after the administration offered to let him finish the season and resign. So the 20-year-long reign of Mike Gundy has ended at Oklahoma State. Cowboys are 1-6 overall, have not won a conference game since November 25th of 2023. It was a 40-34 win over BYU. Their last win over a Power 4 opponent altogether, September 7th, 2024. That was a 39-31 win over Arkansas last season. And the Cowboys have not beaten Texas Tech since October 8th, 2022. That was Joey McGuire's first season. Now, there was a season where the Red Raiders and Cowboys did not play in the middle of that. Players to watch, quarterback Zane Flores. He's a freshman from Nebraska. He's got 696 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Not great. Not great at all. He came in for the injured Haas Heine, who Oklahoma State picked up in the portal from TCU. Was supposed to be the guy for Oklahoma State in 2025, but went down with an injury in the first game of the season. Zane Flores, he is good with his feet. He's got 1 touchdown on the ground. He's mobile. His biggest problem, he can't throw on the run very well. Also, he's just young. He's a freshman, and Big 12 defenses are just too much for him right now. He was never intended to be the guy this year. I don't know if he was ever intended to be the guy at any point at Oklahoma State, and probably won't be anymore. Another player to look out for, Rodney Fields, running back. He's a freshman from Wright City, Oklahoma. 76 carries, 420 yards, 1 touchdown. Basically represents Oklahoma State's entire offense. Also, wide receiver Gavin Freeman, the junior, probably the most experienced player I've seen on the field. Is so far it seems like the bulk of Oklahoma State's roster is freshmen and sophomores. Gavin Freeman, the junior from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, he's got 23 receptions, 233 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also keep an eye out for linebacker Wendell Gregory. Leads Oklahoma State in sacks with 3. We'll go on now to our keys of the game. No keys for this game. Oklahoma State is just not a good team. They just aren't. They aren't. And Texas Tech will beat the Cowboys soundly. Texas Tech could play a terrible game and beat the Cowboys by 2 scores. So instead of Keys, what I want to see either Baron Morton get quality snaps after coming in back from his injury, or I want to see Will Hammond get quality snaps after a rough performance last week and just continue on his progression. Better yet, I want to see both. I believe Baron Morton will be back for this game. He's listed as day-to-day. Chris Lovell has indicated that he is more than likely will be back. Hopefully, we'll get Baron Morton in the first half. We'll put Oklahoma State away early, and Will Hammond will get some quality snaps in the second half. I also want to see the running backs get back into this game after being non-existent last week. Some of that, of course, was on the OL, the offensive line, not getting the blocks that they needed to get. Some of that was on Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams, just needing to be better at getting second chance opportunities. And some of that is on offensive coordinator Mac Leftwich, who said in the post-game press conference they didn't call enough running plays for the running backs. Defensively, I want to see a complete game shutout. This is a game to get everyone back on the same page, especially after losing Skylar Gill-Howard. Lots of players moved around on the defensive side of the ball. This is the game for everyone to lock in and get in the rhythm. This unit should absolutely feast on this Oklahoma State offense. And of course, the last key for the game is for the fans. Please don't be stupid. We all hate the tortilla ban. We all think it's stupid. But I'll tell you, causing a 15-yard penalty because you wanted to play Frisbee is even dumber. I've been very vocal against Brett Yormark in the Big 12 as anyone regarding this. It's stupid. The ban is stupid. It's targeted at Texas Tech. But if you throw tortillas on the field and you cause a fine and you cause penalties, you're just going to let them win. I know you think you're being rebellious. It's not. It's being selfish and stupid. Don't do it. There's more at stake in this game, and there's more at stake in this season. And don't think for a second that officials are just going to let it go if it's just a couple. They aren't. All in all, this game couldn't have come at a better time for Texas Tech. It is the perfect get-right game before the Red Raiders travel to Manhattan, Kansas next week to take on the Kansas State Wildcats. It won't be a competitive game at all. Now, in 2011, Oklahoma State effectively killed the last vestiges of the dream that was born during the Mike Leach era on its way to a program-defining decade. This Saturday, Texas Tech will return the favor. I'm calling it right now. I'm calling 66-6 Texas Tech. It's time now to take a look back at the weekend's games and see who's rising, who's falling, and who just wants it to end. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
We'll start with the good. Arizona State, I guess, forced their way back into the Big 12 title race after a win against Texas Tech. Sun Devils clinched a crucial tiebreaker. Should there be a three-way tie situation between Texas Tech, Arizona State, and BYU, and dear God, if there's another three-way tie situation for the Big 12 championship, God help me. Sun Devils have a very favorable schedule ahead. As long as they stay healthy, they're looking good. Also good, Oklahoma State fans, still the best, among the best in the Big 12. A near-capacity stadium for last Saturday's game versus Cincinnati, despite the winless conference record for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. In addition to the return of Section 2, No Shirty 1, another section of students dressed as bananas and made an appearance in the game. My favorite thing about this was when photos came out to show the sold-out stadium. There was absolutely no denying that the sold-out stadium photos were legit. You couldn't say, oh, this was from a different game, because there was a very massive yellow square sitting in the stands in every single picture. The Bananas eventually formed a Congo line, made a lap around the stadium before joining Section 231 and unpeeling. Bravo to Oklahoma State for changing the 231 sign to Section 2, no shirty one. Anytime a university leans into a quirky tradition, Brett, it is a good thing for the sport, a good thing for the school, and a good thing for the conference. Moving on now to the bad. Utah losing the Holy War. May still be in the hunt, but absolutely not in control of their own destiny anymore. They're going to have some things completely land their way. It's going to look like a couple Texas Tech teams in the past couple years. There's going to be one or two games that you circle, and if you could have just won that one, then you're in. Texas Tech last year, that was the game against Iowa State and Arizona State. If you win one of those, you make it to the Big 12 championship. A couple years ago, it was a game against Kansas State. You lost by 10 points. And of course, now the worst thing for Utah is you now have to sit and watch BYU sit at the top of the rankings, which is absolutely painful for the Utes down in Salt Lake City. Also bad, Baylor may have just cost Dave Aranda's job. I was predicting that the rivalry game was going to be the decider between which coach gets to keep their job next year. Even worse was the atmosphere, and this is a bad for TCU. This is one of the Big 12's best rivalries. There was a significant rain delay. Fans just didn't really show up, though. The upper decks of Amon G. Carter Stadium were almost completely empty. And, of course, the ugly, just West Virginia in general, they're just wanting the season to end so that Rich Rod can clean house. West Virginia has absolutely no fight left in 2025. Now let's take a look ahead to this week's slate of Big 12 games. We'll start with Kansas and Kansas State. If my computer would cooperate with me, hold on. There we go. Kansas State, that is a 11 a.m. kickoff. That'll be this week's TNT HBO Max game. Kansas a 2.5-point favorite against the Wildcats. Kansas State, their season, they may be able to turn something around here. This is the game to turn it around with. Their Big 12 championship hopes are dead and are long dead. But this particular game, if you win, you still have a chance to finish in the upper half of the Big 12 and make it to a respectable bowl. Kansas still somewhat in the hunt for the Big 12 championship, although much like Utah, they need some things to really fall their way. I'm going to predict the Jayhawks, despite the fact that they won't have the benefit of being able to plant a knife to get some free penalties. Kansas is winning this game 17-10. Up next, BYU, Iowa State. BYU ranked number 11 in the country. That's a 2:30 kickoff on Fox. Iowa State, a 3.5-point favorite. Iowa State starting to pick up some momentum here. From a Texas Tech standpoint, you really, really need Iowa State to win this game. You really need BYU to pick up a loss before they come to Lubbock. That way you get to put yourself back in the driver's seat for the Big 12 title race. BYU, though, looked really, really good against Utah last week. Iowa State starting to look better than they did earlier in the season. As usual with Matt Campbell teams, Iowa State looking improving as the season goes along. I'm going to pick, now Vegas sees something that I think the rest of the country doesn't. Vegas thinks Iowa State is a 3.5-point favorite, which really means that they're a toss-up. They're playing in Ames, Iowa. They usually spot the home team about 3 points. But it's not technically an upset, but I'm going to call it an upset. I'm picking Iowa State to win this one 28-24. Up next, Baylor and Cincinnati. Cincinnati suddenly, after, again, I was predicting that Scott Satterfield was going to lose his job this season, has suddenly turned the ship around. They are 4-0 in the Big 12, ranked number 21 in the country. Baylor, just middle of the road, floundering, can't get kids to go to the games anymore. Cincinnati may be a problem for the Big 12, and I think they're going to win this game 34-28. Up next, TCU, West Virginia. TCU did pick up the win against Baylor to go to 2-2 in the Big 12. Currently sitting at a 15.5-point favorite against the West Virginia Mountaineers. As I said earlier, West Virginia, they're broken. They're 0-4 in the Big 12. They've given up. They're just waiting for the season to be done with so they can move on to rebuilding for next year. TCU is going to win this one easily, 31-10. U of H, Arizona State. Arizona State, of course, just picked up a win against Texas Tech. They are 3-1 in the Big 12, ranked 24 in the country, and they are a 7.5-point favorite. They'll get Houston at home. And I'm going to pick Houston looking a lot better, too. They're 3-1 in the Big 12. Their only loss is to Texas Tech. Their offense has improved, and frankly, the Cougars have improved game by game as the season has gone along. This is going to be my official upset pick, and it's not just because I'm annoyed at Arizona State. Houston is going to win this game 28-27. It will be a thriller in Tempe, Arizona. And of course, the last game of the night, the official Big 12 After Dark game, Colorado, Utah. That is a 9:15 kickoff on ESPN. Utah, a 13.5-point favorite. Colorado looking a lot better too, but I think Utah is really going to take care of business here. I'm picking Utah 42-14. Now, one last thing before we get out of here. Texas Tech released its complete baseball schedule for the season. We'll go over that real quick. The season, of course, the march to the College World Series starts with the Shriner Hospitals for Children College Classic in Globe Life Field. They'll be playing Oklahoma, then Vanderbilt, and then Arkansas that weekend. They'll travel to Edinburgh to take on UT Rio Grande Valley before returning home for their home opener to take on Albany for a 3-game series. The weekend after that, CSU Bakersfield for a 3-game series at Dan Law Field. Then they'll get the Penn State Nittany Lions for a 3-game series at Dan Law Field as well. Get a couple midweek games for UTSA before starting Big 12 conference play at home at Dan Law Field. They haven't played a single road game at this point since the UT Rio Grande Valley. They'll start conference play against the Kansas Jayhawks. Get Dallas Baptist on the road for a midweek game. Travel to Arizona and Tucson for a 3-game series before returning home to take on the New Mexico Lobos during the midweek. Then they'll travel to Fort Worth to take on TCU. They'll get the Abilene Christian Wildcats for a midweek game at Dan Law Field before getting Houston for a 3-game series at Dan Law Field. They'll get New Mexico again, this time on the road for a midweek. And Houston is a 3-game weekend series. West Virginia at home for 3 games. Abilene Christian on the road in Abilene. Then they'll travel to Salt Lake City to take on the Utah Utes. They'll get Tarleton State. A series with Oklahoma State at home. You'll get the neutral site game against Oklahoma on April 28th. Then a 3-game series with the Baylor Bears in Waco. Dallas Baptist at home. BYU at home for a 3-game series before you finish off the season on the road at Cincinnati. Texas Tech replaced the pitching coach. Hopefully, we'll look to get back to their winning ways this year. We'll have to see. The biggest problem with Texas Tech baseball right now is not just recruiting necessarily, but retention. Whenever the transfer portal opened up and NIL became a factor, but mainly the transfer portal. I mean, Texas Tech, of course, is competitive with NIL as anyone else. Now, baseball has not been so lucky. Baseball doesn't have the boosters that some of the other sports have. And on top of that, recruiting in the NIL and transfer portal era is just not Tim Tadlock's strength. Roster retention is not the strength. In the past, when Texas Tech was going to College World Series, it was because the roster was absolutely loaded. It was because you had your pitching staff, your relief pitchers, were guys that absolutely could start on other teams, and now in the portal era, they are starting on other teams. And so we'll see. We'll see if they can turn it around on the baseball diamond this year. But lots of football and basketball to be played in the meantime before we start talking about baseball. And that's all I have for you today. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so you never miss a moment. For Flatland Sports, I am Christopher Johnston. I'll be back post-game after the game on X for a live official post-game show. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, free and available worldwide on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you so much, and Wreck 'em Tech.